everyone, and welcome back to Up Next. I'm Carrie, and I'm joined, as usual, by my beautiful and talented co-host, Kaylin. We're going to sit down and kind of give our first impressions on some of our favorite albums that came out just over the weekend. How are you doing, Kaylin?
I'm doing great.
Welcome back.
Yes, this is fun. We've been doing this podcast for a little over a month now, and it's really nice just to have like a quick casual. It's almost like our rapid fire post on our Instagram, but just like
earlier and about stuff that we might not even talk about in the rapid fire.
Who knows?
Get their own video. It's fun to just kind of. Of course, that's nothing to the artist. I didn't mean to phrase it quite like that, but it's a lot of albums that come out, and it's nice to be able to shed a light on as many of them as we possibly can, I guess. And chatting about it with you is always so fun, and we usually talk about our favorite stuff we found in listening anyway, so it's like might as well make a little pot of it. Yeah, it's been a great time, and awesome. I'm excited to sit down and talk with you about stuff. These are all projects that came out on Valentine's Day mostly, so keep that in mind as we explore. That might even be a relevant topic for a segment. That's what it's called.
Yeah, we're going to have a little Valentine's Day segment later. But first, let's talk about some not necessarily Valentine's Day themed albums that came out. Do you want me to get started?
I'm down to get started. I'm really excited to talk about this first one, actually.
Go for it.
Yeah, the first one I have is the debut album by our friends at PIGPEN. The album is Agony and Irony. This album offers even more very good, crusty and noisy sludge punk. We said their EP that came out earlier last year, like, kind of hits that perfect balance between crust and sludge.
Yeah, well, it's a little industrial too, and it has some power electronic influence because the lead vocalist was also in sort of a noise and power electronics project.
Yeah. And this, I would say they take like what we loved about PIGPEN the first time, but this is sort of just like a full-length version of it. I feel like they really pulled out all the stops and did more cool production stuff. It's just that perfect blend, like I said earlier, but it also has a lot of like weird percussion that kind of puts it in a place, you know, makes it very three-dimensional.
Yes.
Which is really fun, and of course, like you said, they still have those really violent electronics on it as well. I really love Agony and Irony. I'm excited to be digging into it more.
Me too. I really need to listen to this whole album because what I've heard so far is absolutely crushing and intense.
We went beast mode.
Yeah, totally. I really liked their EP demo that they put out last year. In fact, we liked it so much we made tapes of it, which you can find on our website. And so I am really happy that this full length just came out, and I gotta get my mitts on it.
You gotta get on it. You'll be like, oh my god, why didn't I get on it sooner? It did come out last week, but I was like, I actually need to talk about this album.
I think well, do you have anything else to say?
No, go for it. Tell me about your album.
Yes, I'm going to talk about an album that I think many people will also be like, oh my god, why didn't I get on this sooner? This is I think it's their debut album by Swelle, Gift Horse. This is a kind of like twinkly but also fuzzy and like garagey indie emo, kind of Midwest emo.
Yeah, I was gonna say there is like a Midwest emo-ness about it, and at the same time it's like we were talking, there's sort of like a Boy Genius aspect to it as well, just like with the harmony and the way the singing goes. But I do like the amount of like grit and attitude that's in it still. Yeah. It's not like too polished like I find some of that music to be.
Exactly. It's really nicely balanced in terms of having a little bit of that edge and edginess to it, a little bit of an experimental slant too. I showed you stuff that had a little bit more of like a country twang to it.
Yeah, they definitely lean into that sound a little bit. Do you know where they're from?
They're from Germany.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't sound like music that is really coming out of Germany right now. It sounds like stuff that's coming out of like Chicago or whatever. But yeah, but I really, really liked this album. I think this man is going to be very successful.
Yeah, totally.
I hope they become a new like international sensation because they're really solid if you like that sort of like emo indie kind of stuff.
I really liked it. I was telling you I could see myself like either riding the bus, listening to it, or going for a walk, like just moving around.
Yeah. I mean, it's just really solid. It's great songwriting. It's like catchy, hooks, you know, just like you want your hooks to be, without, you know, seeming like too pandery or
No, and
like
relatively
derivative.
chill.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's cool. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. But really great stuff. I have a sneaking suspicion this one might get a review this week, just because it's really like really good.
Oh,
really good.
Love it. Can I talk about my next album?
Go for it.
Hell yeah. This one is called "The Stars Are Very Far Away from All of This" by Benjamin Fulwood, which is very beautiful. It's solemn, but it still sounds very lush. Sort of ambient and electronic and free jazz. We had a whole conversation figuring out free jazz earlier today, but I think we figured it out. Not free jazz in like speedy Ornette Coleman, like frantic. This is like very slowed down and very it has like a production treatment on it.
Yeah, we're still kind of rejecting our traditional time signatures and jazz scales and whatnot, but there's not quite so much of leaning into the anarchy and chaos side,
yeah. It's definitely more of like an ambient project in that way. It's out on Room 40, which is a label that does a lot of kind of philosophical noise and ambient music as well. So I would say this is a very fitting project for it. It was really fun, and the artist wrote in the description about this blooming just from like late nights of like listening to two notes together and like really exploring the relationship and just fixating on small musical ideas and like just trying to expand them. It's very cool.
What I heard of this too is very like Boren and Der Club of Gore, very like cool, slowed down jazz noir kind of stuff, but a little more off kilter because it does have that
scary electronic.
It does have that like free influence, so it's not sticking super rigidly to your conventional like
or any one idea or it was really cool. I quite enjoyed this new Benjamin Fulwood album.
Cool. I quite enjoyed the new Tape Loop Orchestra album, Sabbat de Voix.
This was beautiful.
Which I think I'm pronouncing correctly.
The clip you showed me of this was gorgeous.
Yes, this is really nice, high-quality dark ambient for the dark ambient snobs out there. Even though it is cold and detached because it's all analog tape loops, it has this very like tactile feeling.
Yeah, because of that,
Exactly. So a lot of, your, regular everyday dark ambient or whatever that you're just putting together on like Ableton or something, this has a little more of a groundedness
that, like,
to
whole
it.
Feeling that people describe, some overtones and shit.
And it intersperses these angelic choral vocals with deep, ominous bass tones that really create this like ominous atmosphere, but also be not afraid
and like divide. Yeah, well, it's funny when I was listening to it. I was imagining like the deep ocean or something, or you think of like a cenote where like the light is coming in, but it's like haunting at the same time. The biblically accurate angel of it all. The like the fear of God.
Yeah. He talks about, quote, the gap between a sound and it being heard, where meaning is encoded in the process, in the shadows of sound. So it's a lot of
thinking of sound more as like a physical thing.
Yeah, which in this case, again, because it's analog stuff, it is a physical thing.
Well, all sound is. It's a physical wave that's traveling through the air. It's physics.
Right.
And so that element in itself is like kind of crazy, and to think that it does take time for sound to get from me to you. Yeah. It just feels very instant. And, planes breaking the sound barrier and stuff. So you watch the plane fly by over there, but the plane flying noise is over there. Anyway.
Yeah. Who knows?
It's crazy. So, but also the analog tape recording of it being like very real and tactile and like bleeding into the sound of the recording of the thing.
Yeah, so it just has that. I mean, like anything analog, like film, for example, it has this like graininess and texture to it that you can really feel and gives it a lot of personality. So I would definitely recommend checking this out. It's just 2 long form pieces too, which I always appreciate.
Yeah. Those go on like a really cool journey and tend to have good like story structure and stuff, even if they don't have like a cut up track listing. They find their own ways, which is really fun to like listen to and figure out.
Oh, for sure. This has this like these waves of like disillusion and like coming back together, and it's a really fun, interesting, mysterious spiritual journey. Yeah,
I love it.
Love that.
That's
yeah,
super
like
cool.
alchemy, you know. Okay, cool. That's all I've got to say about Tape Loop Orchestra.
Awesome. I've got one more album I would like to talk to you about.
Give it to me.
It's called Synthetic Piss by Artisans.
Interesting.
It was put out on the Music Information Center Lithuania. So this is Lithuanian like art music. It's ensemble and electronica, and they have a very cool artistic perspective they describe that neither of us really grasp fully.
Yeah, you tried explaining it to me about them identifying themselves as artisans and therefore inherently rejecting the idea of being like a genius composer. I'm like, so
No,
I don't know, go ahead.
maybe the idea is more like their artist name is Artisans in the spirit of an artisan being more of a craftsman, maybe more of a professional, a master of the craft. They're taking a very like straightforward, tactile approach that says directed against the so-called cult of the composer genius.
Yes,
which
so
is a term used for like classical musicians and stuff, like a list or whatever, where you become celebrity and people, it's like listomania.
Yeah, right.
Basically, yeah. So there's sort of a rejection of that at the same time as they're doing this like strange performance art.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a little bit more like, can I use a personal example of like your sister who works in like sort of a like mass production ceramics studio, right. And so you're still doing art and it's very hands-on and you are an artisan and it's an artisan product. It's all made by hand, but it is like more assembly line, and there is like a weird like looking down on someone, right, for like, oh, you're working at like
just
like a
the
mass
like
production.
pretension in the field.
Yeah, instead of being like, oh, I'm doing this like high art, you know, residency program versus like, oh, I'm just getting my hands dirty, and you're still throwing clay and like making, you know, art pieces, but there's just,
I get that. Yeah, this definitely doesn't have, I wouldn't call it like a factory made or assembly line.
I don't know. Well, even when you were playing the music though, it did have this like stompy.
How about this? Okay. Can I try another metaphor on?
Yeah.
Think of someone who does sculpt their own things at their own house, makes little pots and artisan goods, and goes to markets and sells them on the weekend, versus somebody who's like auditioning for The Voice.
Okay. Yeah, so someone who's just working and is doing their thing and is, you know, putting their nose to the grindstone versus someone who's like, I'm going to make it big.
Putting their, like, physical stuff out there versus the composer sort of genius, or even being like, I am worthy. Because you have to have a certain, almost, people talk about the degree of narcissism necessary to go after fame.
Right.
Like, because you do have to believe in yourself, and you do have to hold yourself to a high standard. So maybe like a rejection of that as well. I don't know. There's stuff to chew on, which is why it's like hard to fully grasp it. But some cool philosophical stuff.
Exactly. And it made me think too about the wonderful conversation and interview that I had with Matt Farley, which is out on our YouTube channel now.
Oh my god. I'm so excited about that interview. I'm so glad we got it. And I hope you guys listen to that interview and like it, because we really love Matt. Like what he does. So.
Yes. And he is a great example of what I think most working musicians are, more or less, where you're making a solid middle class income.
Enough to live off of. That's all you need. Yeah.
But you're not selling out Madison Square Garden. You know, so I think maybe that's a little closer to what they're talking about, where it's like, no, it's not as like glamorous. Yeah, it's like you teach guitar lessons to kids on weekends and you know, get your gig.
And I think a lot of people don't fully realize just how many people do that, and that you are able to do it and kind of make everything meet without being like a mega celebrity. Or even wanting celebrity.
Or I'm thinking too about our friend who has a few songs with a few million streams each, but you know it, and you know how many monthly listeners, like 100,000, 200,000
million
monthly listeners. I don't know.
We're looking it up.
We're doing some research.
But yeah, anyway, your point
and
is
yeah,
the same
talking
regardless.
about like going home to his family and then being like, hey, Mr. Big Shot, and he's like, I make about the same as what I made working at Dunkin'.
Oh, 100,000.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, about the same as I did working at Dunkin'. I just do it I do it all myself.
Yeah, and he's working harder than he was at Dunkin',
He is, but it's also exactly what he wanted to be doing.
Exactly.
Not making.
We've gotten way off. We're not talking about this album.
No, I love it. No, this is like the spirit of it, though.
Right.
We're finding it. We're figuring it out. No, but that's cool. And people talk all the time about how, well, first, this is even more of a tangent, but when you enter school, like college or high school or whatever, but by the time you graduate, what you learn in your first year is already obsolete information.
Yeah.
And so...
You got this. And so drop out of college? No.
Maybe.
No,
probably not. I guess I'm just talking about the way industry changes and being an artist changes. And how... I remember my point. About how...
Nice.
Saved it. People talk all the time about, like, the career I'm in now, the job I'm in now, I didn't even know that was, like, a title I could go for when I was in school, I guess. So it's just, like, being open to what's out there and believing that you can make it as an artist, even if it is just, like, a humble little normal life. That's great.
Well,
That's
Artisans
perfect.
are making it.
Artisans
Tell me more
are
about
making
Synthetic
it.
Piss.
Yeah, we haven't talked about, like, the actual album a lot. Man, it's strange. I don't know if you remember the snippet.
Yeah.
I played for you, but it's definitely an ensemble, so they have some practical, traditional instrumentation going on. Beautiful string section, recorder, harmonica, but they also have, like, Windows 2000 or whatever sound effects. Like, there's electronica that's, like, slowed and reversed and played with on top of it all. And it comes with a really cool sound. It's very, like, irregular and strange. I don't know what the situation is that you would be playing this. You're gonna scare the hose, I think, if you play this Lithuanian art electronica.
But that's exactly the type of thing we love to cover. I love it. Like a weird Lithuanian sound sculpture
Synthetic
piece.
Piss. Yeah.
Thank you.
As the name of the album.
Great. And
evokes. Great.
You would think that this is some weird, like, punk band or something.
Yeah.
But it's not.
And I have one more thing to add. There's an 11-minute documentary about them also on YouTube
cool.
that I forgot about. But it's linked on their Bandcamp. And if you want to learn more about Artisans, you can check it out there.
Cool. So it's about Artisans. It's not about the Music Information Center of Lithuania.
I believe it's about the people who made the album. Let me see. Yeah, it's called Breaking the Silence, Ensemble Artisans Exposed.
Okay, interesting.
I love it.
I see this is also put out by the Lithuanian Music Center.
Yes.
All right.
Maybe like their label.
I love the Comic Sans.
Yeah, and the album covers all different textures of toilet paper.
Very cool. Well, we'll check this out.
We're watching the video now. Okay, that's not what the pod's about.
No,
but there's a cool documentary. You can watch it.
Awesome.
You have one more album, right?
I do. I have one last album.
We've been chatting on the pod today. We're gonna go long.
This one is really sweet. I thought it was... It's not the type of thing we would normally cover, I think, but today I'm talking about Grand Man by Rusty Williams, which has gotten a good bit of press already. I'll get into why in a little bit, but the artist is a 78-year-old man, and this is his debut album, so the first time he's ever putting this out into the world, although it was recorded in the 70s, and it just, like, carries. It is a time capsule, truly, of that sound. It's like Steely Dan... We're doing yacht rock.
It's like soft yacht rock.
Easy listening.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful, and it is like revived media in a way. So beautiful.
Yeah.
You think of like Little River Band. Steely Dan is a great pull. Yeah, loved this project. And artists like Lana Del Rey's dad or whatever is old and was putting out music.
Yeah, and it's
old and putting out music.
It's also touching. A lot of it is about his wife who
being in love.
They're still together, and they met when they were literally like 11 years old.
Oh my god,
70 years ago, which is so crazy.
That's
and,
so sweet.
Rusty Williams is Haley Williams' grandfather. So that's all. That's the tie back.
I had no idea.
This was put out by the record label run by Zach Farrow from Paramore.
Oh shit! I see.
Yeah. So it is just.
Oh my god!
Just not complicated. Oh, go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
we're looking at an article
with quotes from Haley who talk about.
So many people are age reminding these albums for tones and things you can't even replicate. Granddad way of cutting to the core of a feeling, not overcomplicating it. That's awesome.
Yeah, so like I said, it just feels like a time capsule because it literally is. It is that very old school.
Yeah, and those things,
warm
she
sounds.
said, yeah, those tones you can't place and you can't. The technology, like you said, the way it progresses, like you lose that sort of fuzziness and that tactile feeling.
I mean, there's a lot of bands
which is great because it's higher fidelity and it like lasts longer or whatever. But you lose it. You lose the fuzzy warmth.
Well, there's a lot of bands who do replicate this stuff and to great success. I mean, you can just go get all your old equipment and create an album pretty much like they did in the 70s. You know. There's a little higher barrier to entry, but you can do it.
Yeah.
But all this stuff ends up sounding like kind of derivative. It's like, I don't know.
Right. When this is like actually, this is from that context, like from the past. Exactly. Yeah. Right. So they're not trying. He's not trying to replicate Steely Dan or whatever. Yeah. Like those bands that might be. He like was there.
Exactly. Yeah. It feels fresh because at the time it was fresh. Right. So it's not just like a rehashing of stuff that people have been doing for the past 60 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that sort of like downstream effect where, you're kind of picking through the rubble, it's...
Yeah. There was an album that came out recently, I'll just mention offhand. It's called Praise Poems 10. It's a compilation of stuff that was put out from 1970 to 1984, and it's very similar in that same way, where it's like, certain styles and trends, it's not a date in like a textbook to remember, like that's not what history is. It's like, it doesn't start and end on a specific date. All these influences and stuff are like changing through time, year to year, and it's all a very gradual, slow shift. So it does make a big difference, I guess.
This is so
authentically. This
is so sweet. I'm sorry.
Like we're not talking about my point anymore.
No, it's okay. I have one last quote from Rusty here to close out this discussion. He says, "I don't expect anything, and I'm too old to be famous, but I just want to know someone liked what I did and to be touched by whatever the hell they're listening to.
Rusty.
I want people to see how it felt when things were real. You write stuff and you just want someone to get something out of it." That's sweet. That's really sweet.
Rusty, I love you. I love
Rusty,
your album.
we listened and we were touched by it.
Dude, it's amazing.
And I liked it. It was good and I liked it.
It was good and I liked it.
Great. All right, is it time for our special little Valentine's Day segment?
Oh my god, it's time for the Valentine's Day segment. We have some very soft, lovey-dovey, and romantic music to show you.
I don't know if that's true. Well, just because New Music Friday was on Valentine's Day this past weekend, there were a few albums that came out that seemed to be leaning into the theme. Carrie, do you want to start us off?
I'll start us off. This is like, you know what? No, I'll reserve that statement.
Okay.
I was about to list an untruth, which is not true.
We don't like to be overly critical.
No, and so this isn't another whack roundup, which is what I rescinded.
Yeah, this is not whack roundup.
No, because especially your pick isn't quite as whack. This one isn't bad either. It's just
none of this
misplaced.
stuff is bad.
Okay, my album, Songs for Sex by Danny Scott Lane. This sets you up for a certain experience, I would say. The album cover, it's like sort of Caravaggio lighting. It's very dark.
It's like a messy
lights.
Bed. We'll put the album
unmade bed. Yeah, it'll be here. But Songs for Sex, very, very demure and very low lighting.
Very sexy.
Very sexy. Ooh, love it. And you play it and it's like
lounge music. It's chill. It's like, laid back.
It's like mall music.
It's like mall music. Well, not even, I don't know.
It's tagged as chill funk jazz.
It is chill and it's funky.
It's not that funky. It's not very jazz-like. It's just like lo-fi.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's great for a lot of things. I wouldn't say
Great for playing
it's
at the grocery store.
what I would turn on
Right. For
the bedroom. Really.
So, not being a hater, the music itself, I was actually fine with. I was totally fine with, like, just straight up listening to it. However,
Not
I feel
my
like
first
there's
choice.
some mislabeling going on here, sort of a miscategorization. Maybe there was a concept that was good, and an album that was good, and maybe they just don't quite match.
Maybe the
is my
songs were here, the
theory.
songs were ready to go, but I don't know, and I'm maybe not entirely convinced that they were composed with the theme in mind. I think maybe they were like, ooh, we can do a Valentine's Day release, and then kind of just put
They're
two
like,
and two
We'll
together.
put some music on it.
I don't know. Maybe comments. Let us know what you think about this one.
Yeah,
maybe we're wrong.
1 to 10. How sexy would you call this album?
Because I've heard there's some pretty sexy jazz music out there.
Right.
But I
feel like the free jazz, the stars are very far away from all of this, is sexier than songs for. I don't know if that's true.
Sure, maybe. You're like,
That's a
I kind of gotta
wild
walk that
claim.
back.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and backtrack.
Neither of these albums that we've really listened to thoughtfully front to back.
I'm just saying things. I'm an armchair critic. Anyway, so that's like a not very sexy romance album, I guess. But
Again,
you have one that's
not bad.
not bad. No hate.
Don't hate it. No hate. It's all love.
It's all love. It's just more the categorization, something sort of secondary, I would say, to the album itself. Anyway, now tell me about this, because I'm also very hyped for this pick.
This one has not left my mind since I found it. I think we've referenced this every day since Valentine's Day, which is only like 2 days, but it's the EP Girls Come First by Chow. Now this artist is much bigger than what we would normally cover.
How big? Monthly listener count?
200,000, 300,000.
Okay.
Well, not huge, not more like a giant.
More than our musician friend we were talking about earlier. He's probably making a living off this.
300,000. Oh,
Sheesh.
definitely. And some of these songs have like 4 million.
Oh my
3 million streams. So he's very successful. And this is a genre called sexy drill, which I've also never really encountered before Valentine's Day. A few days ago. I do get the idea, and I kind of love it.
It's sultry. It's got almost like the like sultriness of R&B to it as well, from
but like a little faster paced.
Yeah. It's great. Tell me more about Girls Come First. Tell me what
Sure. So it's only 3 songs, and I have only listened to one of them, but I was immediately sold by Yes Mommy as the as kind of the intro track here.
You have got to get into Yes Mommy by Chow. Like now.
Yes Mommy by Chow.
Well, and then we also listened to some of his last album, correct?
Yeah. Well,
which is called what?
His last album is called Sex Drive. And the lead single I think is Miss Beautiful V, because they can't put, I mean, I guess they can, there's not as much like content restrictions on Spotify, but you can imagine what Miss Beautiful V is about, and I really recommend listening to it. And I want to see this man and DJ Khaled throw hands. I want to see like a full,
because the opinions expressed are polar opposites as far as devotion to your woman, as far as enjoying your the company of your missus.
And I really like this. I think this is great.
It.
I think this is sex positive. This is body positive.
And I need men to be being vulnerable.
It's vulnerable. It's very vulnerable. He's keeping it real.
He's keeping it real, and not being like, I don't know, he loves her. He loves her.
This is a man who's in love.
Hello, it's wonderful.
Yeah, so this is really great. I guess if you're,
the bars are fantastic as well. First of all,
I thought you were gonna say like the bars on the floor for like your
the bars on the out. Like he's a good lyricist.
Yeah,
and they're funny at the same time
and sexy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay. You can do this. You can do this. I think that
Happy Valentine's Day.
At first I was a little like put off by this, but then I was like, well, you know, we all loved WAP. I'm pro WAP.
If we're pro WAP,
I think we have to be pro Girls Come First.
We're pro Miss Beautiful V. I guess.
We're pro Guess Mommy, I guess. Yeah,
it's wonderful.
Great.
It's so funny. I just like it. I like it. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. 3 days late.
That was the segment.
That was it. That's all we got today.
Kaylin, what are you most looking forward to this week?
Well, we're seeing Matt Farley on Friday.
Oh yeah, we're going to the Matt Farley show.
In Philadelphia.
Yeah. Don't know if there's any cross appeal in our viewers versus Matt Farley appreciators, but if you're there,
if you like weird singer-songwriters, you might like this guy.
Yeah.
Who knows?
That'll be fun. I like that. What do I have going on this week? It's kind of a light week. That might be my
Isn't
highlight.
that nice? Yeah, the highlight is that you aren't being pulled in like 800 directions at once.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
I'm gonna breathe.
Wow, I love that. It's just in and out. Okay, anyway. Thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.